What's happening? Furious Pete here. This is Ask Furious. Got a question the other day. What type of protein should I use if I'm a beginner? Now, that's a very good question because there's so many proteins out there. Recently, for example, post-workout, I've been using something called PF3. It's a bioactive concentrated protein, which basically utilizes different kinds of proteins. It doesn't necessarily focus on the amount of protein, but the kind of protein that is going into your body. Now, that being said, if you are a beginner, this also depends on your age, your budget, your goals, and so forth. You know, I think when you're a beginner, you need to understand what different proteins do, what different proteins are. You know, there's concentrates, there's isolates, there's caseins, there's egg, there's milk, there's, the list goes on. There's soy, there's pea, and so forth. And there's PF3, which is, like I said, a bioactive concentrated protein. There's so many different kinds of proteins where we need to understand exactly when and where one should have a certain protein. PF3 and an isolate are on the same map, if you will. They're post-workout proteins. You don't want to have an isolate before bedtime. Sorry. Stumbled on words there. You don't want to have it before bedtime because it's a very fast-acting protein. So you want to have, for example, an egg or a casein protein right before you go to bed, something a little bit slower digesting. Then you have a whey concentrate, which tends to be the cheapest proteins out there, which is... It's always, you're juggling when you actually buy a concentrate. There's very good formulas out there, and then there's also very shit formulas out there. So, luckily for us, there's reviews online. There's so many brands where we can actually read the labels on certain proteins, and you can figure out whether something is crap or not good, and whether something is really good, and you know the flavoring's good and the formula is good, and you know where the proteins come from, or if it's approved by certain FDAs and so forth. So going back to the very beginning, what type of protein is good for a beginner? When you are a beginner, I don't necessarily recommend that you really have too much whey protein. Do you really need it? Depending on your age, usually when you're a beginner, you're at a younger age when you're just starting. That's what I am guessing. So if I was actually just having a protein, I would save it for post-workout, because throughout the day I think that you should have whole foods. It's gonna give you better results, it's gonna fill you up more, keep you satisfied more, and then keep your dollars saved for a good post-workout protein. An isolate or PF3, a bioactive concentrated protein. So two different options. I would stick to that. If you are on a very limited budget and you really can't afford any of these isolates or PF3, then stick with a concentrate, but keep it for post-workout. Other than that, if you have a huge budget and you're always on the go, always traveling and so forth, then maybe you want to look into some caseins, you know, something to chug before you go to bed, something in the morning. You know, you can have a blend of egg, concentrates and so forth, you know, that routine that I've talked about before. Those are very good options too. Like I said, it's better just when you are a beginner to become educated in what every protein does. There's a lot of information online. Bodybuilding.com, for example, one of my sponsors, they have a lot of great free information on there that you can actually see what protein is right for you, what protein is actually going to benefit you for certain times of the day or to achieve certain goals. There you go. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, well, I apologize, and ask me again. Don't ask me again. Hashtag Ask Furious if you guys have any questions. Ask me on Twitter and so forth. You can also write me messages on here or on Facebook on my fan page, FuriousPete123. Follow me on Instagram as well. If you haven't followed me on there, it's Furious Pete as well on Instagram. Take it easy, guys. Stay sexy, stay hungry, and of course, get laid.